Hello, me lovelies. Well, just wait to see when my guests start coming in. I've invited a few people in. Hello, Mrs. Magpie. I'll see you there, Humble. Maria, live follower. Ahmad, hi Ahmad. And if you're wondering what the Avi is, that's little Max. Little Max, I call him the little werewolf. He's looking for a home. He needs us. I have sent the link, haven't I? Let's see. I'll send it to you again in on Twitter. But I definitely sent the link. I'm sure I did. Let's see. I'll send you on Twitter now. Now, I've sent it through, but it's gone through exactly the same. Humble or Donna, whoever it is. Because you click on that, it should bring you through. So go into Twitter and see if you can get in it from there. If not, I'll put it in here, but I'll have to be careful who I'm letting on because I know Creepy Peggy and Chris are wanting to get on here and they're not getting on. I think Peggy needs to spend time with a child for once in his 18 years instead of being 24/7 on the internet. Are you Big Billy? Are you Sunny Shine? Oh, are you Mrs. O? Oh, no, it won't be a shouty live. It's not going to be a shouty live. You know I'm like that. I don't do things like that. I won't have it. Let's see if he's... See, if I'm scared of clicking on that link I've just sent to you because if I do, I don't know what it might do to Mike being on here. Are you doesn't suffer fools? But there are a few people invited on. Are you Rangers? Oh, here we go. Are you?
Hi, how you
Oh,
doing?
good God, Donna, Jesus. My poor heart, you were loud then.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking, I got a couple of other people who are supposed to come on who have got more or less interesting things to say about all this commotion that's been going on for a long, long time. And, you know, they've seen it for months for what it is, which would be helpful to do. So first of all, let's announce Humble Dryer number 2 has been, it's not been taken down, it's been, what's the word that they use? Disabled, which I was surprised by because usually what they do, they'll take your channel right down, but they've disabled it and told us that I'd imagine there's an appeal goes through.
That's right.
Which should last about a month. But what Decca's got to do now is he actually has to issue court proceedings.
But Decca's saying that he hasn't actually done the strikes, that it's an imposter.
But it's got the name of his channel.
Well, when the first copyright strike that we had, it's not actually signed off as a legal personality. You know, where it asks you for your legal name for it in the form. The legal name that they've given is The Epic Story of Tomorrow. Decca's name isn't on there, and it's all in lowercase. So I don't really know where I am with it. We'll just have to go through the process and see what happens.
Well, usually what if I know YouTube, if you're putting in no copyright strikes, they'll sus straight away if it's an iffy one, or they usually do. They'll say, no, you have to prove it's actually you, and they have to give. So somewhere those videos must be out there on that channel. I must have been there before they appeared on Humble Dryer too, or YouTube would have told them to go stuff off it. That's how you do it. So
unless somebody's acting as a representative, but again, there's no legal personality named in the strike. So, I mean, it might be nefarious. It might. I don't know. Every cloud has a silver lining. We wanted to swap over to the other channel because the Humble Dryer #2 has never been monetized. So kind of streamline it. Running 2 channels is quite difficult. So everything happens for a reason. We just have to sit tight and see what happens.
Yeah.
Not too worried about it, Anne, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's just one of those things, isn't it? You
exactly.
Get through it, and that's how you do it. Just looking at see if there's anything interesting in the comments. I don't know. You know, when you go into them and you're suddenly in a mid-conversation, you can't work out what's going on. So, I mean, the latest that's been happening is this disgusting threat against you and your children by Chris Hartley, a person I've known for over a year, was obsessing over me, totally unbalanced as far as I'm concerned. And then, shock horror, he goes on Jockney Sparrow, and I found out that he's been doing it for 3 years. I'd ever heard of him for a year ago, or just over a year ago. But how's the situation with that and making those threats?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Anne. It's saying that it's Chris Hartley. I kind of want to keep it purely factual. It's our understanding that he has a channel that has suggested that somebody's going to come to the house with a gun. There hasn't been a direct threat to me. There hasn't been a direct threat to our children. I feel that John has been targeted by an individual who at the moment probability is we know what the person's voice sounds like, and it's our understanding that it's Chris Hartley. I wouldn't want there isn't enough surety. We've been warned by a number of people about him. When the only interaction I've ever had with him was on The Honest Truth Live. And I'll be honest, he was nothing but respectful to me. I haven't personally, from Chris Hartley himself, I haven't experienced any negative interaction. However, it would appear that there's a couple of things that there's this one particular profile they kept. I don't know if they were losing it or deleting it. And I said to that person on Twitter, I feel like you're being a bit stalkerish and a little bit creepy. It felt it began to feel really targeted. And a little bit creepy. And when I said that to this account, it evidently really triggered the person. So there's lots of little incidents, really. It's unfortunate that a lot of people have had really negative experiences. I mean, at the end of the day, most of the time, these are just bad words on the internet. However, if somebody, there's been a lot of false allegations about me from a number of people. But again, it's just bad words on the internet. You can't prove a negative, but you can surely prove a positive in most cases. And I'm happy to do that. If it is Chris Hartley, I don't really, it seems really, the person that has this account, I think sounds as though he's got ADHD. He gets very, very excitable. You can
Which
hear.
Chris Hartley does.
Does it? Well, we've
Yeah.
only heard his when we heard his voice the other night. When you can hear the adrenaline really, really pumping. I don't know. Has Chris Hartley got ADHD? Yeah.
I don't know what he's got. He's got something, because I remember when he was on The Honest Truth with Uncle Bobby, and it was just like full on. I've still got those videos, and he'd be like, "I hate about me. I hate him," literally screaming. And then there was that gentleman, I can never remember his name. He's got his own channel now, and do you remember he was supporting Decca, and now he's calling out Decca, but he's got his own name. He's on with Ronan all the time.
Oh, are you talking about the official topic?
Yeah.
Steve Clark. Yeah, I know who you mean.
Well, Steve went on there, and I was absolutely disgusted. Steve went on. Now, I know whether he was for Decca at the time or not, he went on there, and all that Chris Hartley was doing, this is disgusting, was going, "Shouldn't you be looking after your dying wife? Shouldn't you be looking after..." And even Uncle Bobby, who let him do everything he wanted on that show, right, turned around and said, "No, stop the bullying, stop the bullying." That's how bad it was. So he has got severe. But if Chris Hartley is listening, which I think he will, look, just let me tell you this, Chris. Everything you've said, and you're admitting that you came down outside my house, right, with another YouTuber, I can assure you now the police have copies of all that. Because I'm not playing games with someone that goes around stalking and making threats to people.
Yeah.
So, and you have to, and this thing, they go on about, they call people, what's it, grasses and all this. I'm sorry, when you've got a man or a woman stalking someone online, especially women, which he's gone after, women doing that, and making threats towards children, you can't turn around and say, "Oh, it's grass." And no, you've got to report this person. So if they're ever pulled in the future, once the police go on the computer, they can see the history. And I learned that from the police. You go on, every time someone would come in, you'd have to go on the system to before you could record what they were telling you or what people were telling you about them. And all the past reports would come up. And that sways the police and how they're going to handle a case if they suddenly see mounds and mounds of complaints from different people. But that was my
and what led to this situation arising with him?
Well, I didn't know him from Adam. As I say, I didn't know him until I saw him on The Honest Truth, and he was screaming about me and Jean and me dog dying, which was absolutely disgusting. The day after my dog died, he was and this went on for days and days. Anyway, he seems to, what I can work out, it was he was in the Wheezy set, what I call the American podcast. He was with him, and I was getting like all kinds of hate speech. It was 8 hours you'd get live going on this Wheezy's channel, and a lot of it would be just ripping me down, hate speech. He was telling people to report me to the police anonymously, which you can't believe and do. It does nothing. It only proves that you're being stalked and harassed online. And then what happened was Wheezy's channel was taken down by YouTube. So, which will happen as well if the algorithm's picking up all this cursing and all that, it will take your channel down.
Yeah.
And well, apparently that was it. I was to be hasty, and I can't understand this. I've never spoken, didn't know who the hell Chris Hartley was, never spoken to him, nothing. And people have done this to me, and I think happens to other people, and you wonder, why are they taking on someone else's battle? Why is he fighting for the American podcaster? Why is he getting so offended and upset by it? And then you realise that there's something not right there, there's something not working. And he said himself, he's paranoid, he's got anxiety problems. I'd say paranoid, I don't know about anxiety. So that's what started off. And I'm just watching this on The Honest Truth. And Uncle Bobby was getting involved in all this. And Uncle Bobby, we didn't know. First time I heard about Uncle Bobby was again on the Wheezy channel. And I just heard this Yorkshire fella going on, oh, you know, Wheezy. Love and light, Wheezy. He'd be going on about love and light when he'd be hearing this absolutely vile diatribe coming out of the man's mouth. And he said that my parents and Sean Atwood's parents didn't bring us up proper. And I thought, you horrible. I thought, who the hell are you? And he was another one. I didn't know who the hell he was. And then he started that channel, The Honest Truth. And he says on it, I've got it. I've got the video. I've still got it on my hard drive. He turns around and says that the only reason they started that channel was to attack me because Wheezy couldn't do it. That's the only reason. And he's shouting on it. And that's why when people think I'm being, you know, harsh with Bobby, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He was well behind that, what was going on. And he may not have skittered my dog himself. But what he did was he allowed him to do it. And never challenged him once. So that's why, and that's why Bobby best, when he's going on about me being bitter, to hell I'm bitter with him. Very bitter with him. And there'll never be a chance of me ever talking to him. Because one, done right, he's not a young lad. He didn't make a mistake years ago, which you can think, oh, well, forgive him. He's older than I am. And I'm bleeding old. So it's like, you know, it just gets, what's this on here? It exposed. I don't know. Is this a copy count? No, it's what's the name of your channel, Donna?
Oh, it's the official Humble Dryer.
Oh, is that real? Is that John?
Yeah, no, that was originally Donna Humble, and we've changed it in the last few weeks.
No, can you see my comments?
Yeah. I can see the comments in the chat just now, and I can't actually see your comments. So,
do you mean comments on the official Humble Dryer?
No, on here, now in the live. It says here, I'll read out what it says. This account's come on the official Humble Dryer. Exposing wrong than this is, John. Thanks. Yeah. Oh, do you know what? When it said exposing wrong,
replying to exposing wrong ones, there's a channel called Exposing Wrong Ones, and I'm replying to here.
Oh, I didn't. That's it. I just wondered. I couldn't make out what they were talking about. But
actually, Exposing Wrong Ones has been. I've been communicating with them by email, and they've been an absolutely belter. So what's?
We don't know the lady, but it's a lady. Yeah.
What's Chris Hartley's relationship with True Media?
Oh well, Dingo told me this first. Baker turned around to me and he said, you do know that Chris Hartley and True Media were talking about stalking outside your house. Now, I know that was going on because Chris Hartley, best mates with True Media, and he was going on all the time, why don't you wear makeup when you leave the house? Why don't you leave makeup wearing the house? But when he was on Lindsay's Kilpatrick's live, he said in the chat something, which I'm going to keep myself, but the police have, which proved he had been outside my house.
Right.
And that's when I got right onto the police and I said, this person has been outside my house stalking me. And I said, I want it recorded now. So that's how they got together, because at the time, True Media, I used to get on with him great. I used to think he was all right. But what happened was with True Media, again, he was in this American podcast, assessed this, getting on there with him. And you remember, still out there, I think someone you like, but I didn't get on with him, Chancer. Well,
we've never actually spoken to Chancer directly.
He was on there, right, Chancer, and was making videos about me and making videos about Sean Atwood and whatever not. Anyway, True Media suddenly came on and was big enough. He wasn't getting at me, True Media. He wasn't actually slating me, but he was big enough, Chance and all this. And I thought, you two-faced guess. He'd done a video, which I saw, where he was accusing Chancer of being a convicted drug stealer and abuser and all this. Yeah, I've got the video. It's actually, if you look on my timeline, you'll see where
Well,
I put up a
actually,
video.
Anne, True Media sent photographs of somebody that he was saying was Chancer, and sent clips of, I think I'm not going to give the man's full name, but it was somebody called Lee.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give his full name. Yeah, we had the same. Yeah, with photographs with him in a car, and with all sorts of photographs via WhatsApp. But then subsequently, he said that he was speaking to. So it was. I don't know whether that was just like a trail of seeds to encourage information. We didn't have any information. We've. It doesn't really matter. I mean, Chancer went offline. I think he's come back on, but it was all around the Callie Diamond, Sean Atwood scenario. But I still don't. I'll be straight. I don't really understand why he was sending photographs of somebody who he was then months later still speaking to.
Well, I'd say I didn't have much to do with him other than he was putting all kinds of hate speech out against me and all this, and he was mixing with people. I won't mention his name because we've got to be careful here at this moment.
I know who you mean.
You know who I mean?
Yeah.
Fella in Wales who imagines that he's some kind of legal. Well, anyway, he was friends with him as well, and it was all this to and fro between them. But when I called him out on that and said, wait a minute, what are you up and Chancer for, when you were the very one who made a video about him saying that he was this drug dealer and all that? And he denied flatly that he'd made the video. I said, I've got it. I said, I've got the video. I said, you sent me the link. I said, I've got it. So he would, and then accused me when I put it up on my channel. He accused me of actually editing it. I said, I'll get lost. I said, that's what you put out there. I didn't edit that. And that sort of spun it off. But we used to be okay, but that spun off, and he just got nastier and nastier and nastier. And of course, then Hartley was in there, all mixing it up and getting it all done. But just this here, the real honest truth has gone on here. Put thumbs up. Screen record and be careful. Look, you want to be the one to be careful, right, Bobby? And I'm just telling you now, get the hell out of it, right? You're an embarrassment. You're a bully. You can go on doing your little, I'm NASCAR Yorkshire man. I look like old fella from up. Yeah, I can remember what you're like. I've got all the videos you screaming and ranting at me. I've got them all, mate. So go and do one. See what you can do with your screen records, because I'll never forget what you did. Especially like.
Why do you think you've been targeted, Anne?
Because I can be. It depends. It's lots of things happen. One is I'll speak my mind when I think something, and I'll go out and say it. And also, I can have an accurate way of saying things.
Yeah.
Now I can understand it, and this is it, Donna. I can understand someone coming back at me, like Ronan. Ronan, me and him had a spat, and he got involved in some things that I didn't like. But I've always said, well, I had to go at Ronan first. I just I didn't like his personality and the way he was going on. I desired him. So would I go running to the police? Oh, Ronan's saying this about me. Ronan's saying that about me. No, I wouldn't. There's other people. I can even say Wheezy, the American podcaster, we were going at each other backwards and forwards, so I could understand why he hates me guts. And he should be able to understand why I hate his guts, because we were saying nasty things against each other. But someone like Chris Hartley, someone like Uncle Bobby, who I never spoke to, didn't even know exist, what the hell are they getting involved for? Yeah. Why are they getting... And that's where I don't like it. And there's situations where I'll say, move on, let's get over this. There's people I've had fallouts with the past, and we talk now. But there's, and everyone knows this, there's a certain line, and if that line is crossed, I can't personally go back. It's like, that's it, you've crossed that line. I'll never go now. Now, me and John, as you know, have had blazing rows behind the scenes, but it's never got to that stage where I thought, oh, I'm being picked on here, because I know it's been, I've gone at him, he's gone at me, and it's been vice versa, and you just get over that.
I
'Cause
think
it's-
that's a problem. Well, not necessarily. It's a challenge when you've got two people that are assertive, but everybody's perspective is very different, because depending, you can be looking at the same situation and see it very differently depending on what else you've seen. The context is different. But when it becomes really, that's why I was interested to know why you were targeted. I mean, I right now cannot understand. I mean, you could argue, and it has been argued, that we've targeted Decca Heggie, for example, and targeted awareness rather than what feels like absolutely purely juvenile harassment. It's some of the behaviors that I've seen on YouTube in recent months. It feels like being at school. There's no benefit to this negativity whatsoever. It's not challenging somebody's ideas. It's just challenging. And I don't think that's good for anyone. I don't mean, who is Chris Hartley? Who is this man? What's his profession? Does he have a profession?
I don't think he does. He's on the internet all the time, but all I know is, well, the police know who he is, let's put it that way, because when I sent the report and they said, look, well, if you ever needed to go forward, we'll take it forward. If you know the situation, if he does something that it can be taken forward. But I imagine he's got a history. That's what I think. I can't say what it is because I don't know. I honestly don't know what the history is. But he really just wants to go away and get his own life sorted, because it's creepy. I don't know why someone would obsess over me. I'm not far off 58, and I'm not good looking. There's nothing about me attractive, and it's like, why would anyone be obsessing? Look, go and get a life, get a personality, so you can get a nice girlfriend, instead of having Jockney, Sparrow and Peggy advertising for you, even though they know what it's getting.
Where does Jockney Sparrow fit into all of this? Because he sort of landed. It's a bit like the man from Mars, where somebody has just landed, and it's like, where did you come from? Who is Jockney Sparrow, Anne?
Well, Jockney Sparrow, I didn't know who he was. I never knew. I seen him asking me. He seemed all right to me. He asked me a couple of questions on me, comments, and saying, "How do you pronounce your name?" And I thought, nice fella. Then someone, I won't say who it was, turned around and said, "If you've seen this Jockney fella, his live chat," they said, "go and watch his live chat. There's some horrendous things being said about you in there." And I didn't at first. Then other people came to me and said, "And you need to look at Jockney Sparrow's live chat. There's some horrible things being said." So I went on there. The minute I looked at the live chat, I realised, no, I've just been talking about the Wheezy, the American podcaster.
Yeah.
A lot of his followers were in there, ripping me to shreds. I still don't know to the day why they were attracted to Jockney. The only thing, because I can't remember Jockney ever even knowing who Wheezy was. But I'm wondering, was Peggy a Wheezy bunny? I don't know though, because I've never heard her mention her. But anyway, all this hate's going on, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking. I can see he's reading the comments, and he's not saying that. And I thought of this, he's got learning difficulties, because he's come across like a child. I thought, God help me, he doesn't know. But then, as I carried on watching him, I thought, this fella's not got any learning difficulties. This is him acting, which he admits later on it wasn't acting. The Jockney Sparrow was a character. It's not actually him. I thought he's more intelligent than he's making out and capable. But then, how we really fell out was Bleeding Peggy. She was talking to the fella, we can't mention.
Yeah.
She was talking to him because he was a big presence on that channel, and he was slating me off. And he said something about thank God I couldn't have children or grandchildren, and because I'm a freak of nature and all this. And she put in it, and I was disgusted. Ha ha ha! Yeah, fine and blanks, and I thought, you horrible cow. I thought, why attack me when I've never said anything to you? This is what I call it. I mean, attack me when I've done something, and believe me, I know when I can wind someone up and press the buttons. I'm very, very good at pressing buttons, and I know that. So I won't hate a person or rip into them when they come back at me, because I know I've instigated, but here and I've said it. And then that's when I'd fallen out with Ronan. And Jockney turned around and said, Chris Hartley, pretending to be me, whatever floats his boat, was saying, oh, Ronan, make me your mod, because at that time he was wanting to be on as many channels he could as me to cause trouble and make people think that it was me. So
oh, that's right, because there was a fake profile, wasn't there, called Androgyny, and
with my photo and everything on it, a complete copy of mine.
That's
account.
right, I remember that.
Anyway,
do you think that was Chris Hartley?
It was definitely one.
Right.
He's admitted it. He's admitted it in the live he did with Jockney Sparrow. But anyway, he was doing all that, and Jockney said to Ronan, oh yeah, make our Anne your mod, the nicer Anne. And I thought, you horrible little cretin, because I'd never said anything about Jockney either. And that's when I thought, right, you want it like this, you'll get it like this. And that's why
you were actually quite defensive of Jockney, weren't you? When I went on. Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm not casting this up to be challenging, but you clearly thought that I was taking, at that time, you thought that I was taking advantage of Jockney in some way because of the way that I was speaking to him. And I was actually just really interested because I didn't understand where he had come from.
What you said, Donna, I'll clarify what got my ears pricked when you did that. You turned round at one point and you went to Jockney Sparrow. You said, oh, and as if it wasn't planned, which it also, come on, it was planned. You turned around and said, oh, and Anne with this hello, this thing, what was it, like a setup for the police and all that to get out there and put out white flags. And I thought, you've just done that. Because I wondered why you went on Jockney as well, because we were having that argument at that time. And that's when I said, you went on there, and that's when I used the word.
It actually wasn't planned, Anne. I had absolutely no. John just threw me into.
I right under the bus and had a thing on this. It wasn't planned at all, and I could put my hand in the Bible.
You just shut me in the spare bedroom and threw me on the internet, and I just
I was down here in the kitchen
singing Elvis. Terrible.
It wasn't planned.
It was a horrible thing to do.
Planned, but I didn't know you and Jockney had a big run-in at the time. I really didn't know that was all happening. But
oh God, no! At that time, it wasn't between me and Jockney. I was still under the impression that Jockney was. Right. No, I thought he had learning difficulties and people were taking advantage of him. But then, and I wish they'd come on. There were two people that were going to come on but they haven't showed up, who really have experience with Jockney because they were in his set. They were actually part of it. But what got me really uncomfortable with Jockney, I kept on watching him. Now, with my background, I don't know, it's because of their high functioning autism that I'm more acute to this and watch people or pick up on things with people quicker, or it's because of the experience working in the theatre, having to mimic emotions from a very young age. I become acute. I can pick up when someone's not being genuine or not, or they're lying. Well, it's also come to, I thought this is an act, but what really put me off was that they were talking adult things. It was like adult talk going on, but there were characters on there acting like children, and so was Jockney. And I thought, this is creeping me out now, because this is going to attract children. And you had a fellow with plaits playing a guitar and all this. Then you had Whitey with the mask on. And I pulled them all up. Now, I speak to some of them now. But I pulled them all up, and Dancing Diana, and I feel terrible about Dancing Diana because, Diane, sorry, because Diane was totally oblivious. She just wanted fun, fun, fun. And of course, when I said this is wrong, there's something creepy, and I tried to say to Diane, there's something wrong here. I said, I don't know whether it's conscious, and let me say it now. Was it intentionally set up to attract children in? I don't think it was, but it could have done that.
Yeah.
And I thought, if children are seeing this filth that's being said and reading the filth in the comments, because say that felt that we can't mention was there, Chris Hartley was there were other people, and it was like, if children are reading all this filth, it's disgusting. So that's when I went to loggerheads about Jockney, and I thought Jockney and Peggy would listen to me warnings, but they didn't. And I found out later, people, because she's put out there to sell Cookie. When I say Cookie, people, I don't mean
I know
Cookie
who
who's in prison. It's
I know who you mean. The lady. She's left
Yeah.
the internet, really, hasn't she? Because of
She
what
has. Well, she tried to tell. She said this so public, so I'm not out and here. And she's told me as well. She said it in public, as I say. She tried to tell Peggy and Jockney, she said, that Chris Hartley is stalking me. And she sent me some of the things he was saying to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was freaked out because she said one minute he'd be laughing hysterically, then he'd be screaming and shouting. And she said it was just freaking her right out and he wouldn't leave her alone. So they were told.
Do you mean in a sort of emotionally unregulated,
Disturbed.
dysregulation sort of?
Yeah, totally
Yeah.
disturbed. It said she freaked her out. She starts getting scared. Why is he suddenly going from laughing hysterically to screaming and crying as well? He used to cry. So anyway, she told them and said, Peggy, she knows 100% Peggy got that message because Peggy didn't want to know. And then she told Jockney, but she doesn't know whether Jockney got it or not. But I reckon Jockney didn't. He just ignored it. But what's happened today, and this is my problem with it, my issue, I should say, with Peggy. She's a disgrace. I've put it up on my community post for anyone wants to see it. She's saying that we're all lying about Casanova, Chris Hartley. It's all lies and all this business. I'm sorry, the evidence is there. You can see it, and she's actually supporting and backing up and shielding a man she knows. She's seen the comments he's come out with, makes threats towards women and children, and she's seeing that. And what person? Do you know what? As bad as people think I am, I would never support anyone or back up anyone, even if they're a brilliant friend. If I thought they've done something wrong, I'll always say, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not right. And I'll do that. And this is the thing I hate about the clicks that start on YouTube. You get this little click and no one can say anything about that person or criticise them, or they all come at you and descend on you. And it's like, you're doing yourself a disservice. That's how people, though with the issue with Decca Heggie, that's how people can not be questioned. Same with Tony Baker's. I mean, my God, you couldn't get more glowing in your face that there's something there he doesn't want people seeing. Mm-hmm. And yet people will back him up to the hilt. And it's like, what's wrong with people?
I think around the time of like the Wheezy, Sean Atwood saga, there was a character called Yolanda Khan.
Oh, yeah.
And she's now very supportive of Anthony Burkett. She's sort of, it's I didn't actually believe, I believe, it's my belief that I discovered her actual name. But it's almost just sort of disruptive behavior. It's impossible really, because unlike something like Facebook where you can kind of see who's like, it's much easier to sort of place someone. On YouTube, it becomes really dangerous because most people don't check the provenance of a given channel. They just accept what they see, screenshots, etc.
They need to be liked and belong. That's what it is. They need to be liked and belong. There's something missing in their life. So if someone shows some attention, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
cooey, you like me. Just want to pull someone up. Sunshine, what do you mean by that statement you made? I don't know which way this I'm supposed to take this or who you're talking to. Never backed that Baphomet. Who are you talking about? Could you just say who you're talking about, Sunshine? Never backed that Baphomet. And I'll explain to you why the attention has been drawn to that. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what it's done. It's just that people need to belong to a community. And the thing with society now, well, it's been for a long, long time, well, before the internet, it's difficult. People aren't in communities and societies now. It's very rare that you have that old way of everyone knows everyone else. So they find it on YouTube, and that's what they're doing. They find the community on YouTube, but the thing is, they sort of close their ears, and it's like, no, don't do that, don't do that. So it's absolutely stupid. I never backed him. Oh, so you know what I'm going to say. I'll explain to people about this Baphomet thing, right? Why me? I was surprised. Thought Sunshine can't be talking about me there. Baphomet is a terrible insult to throw at someone that's intersex. Very. Because in certain parts of the world, children who are born intersex can't be killed because they're believed to be demons in human form. So just sort of point that out to people. But I knew Sunshine. I thought I've never known Sunshine to be horrible to me in the past. Well, I've noticed anyway. So,
some of the things that are said to all sorts of people, like real, you've got to have a really thick skin to be in any social group that's broad. But where people are, it's, you know, so to say that to you, it must, I mean, I know, like being called a prostitute, being called a junkie, all of these things, they're not true. But it does hurt at times, and sort of sitting down and talking to the kids, explaining that I mean, fortunately they've been brought up to know that bad words on the internet, people can say lots of things but they can't touch you, and so that threshold sort of being crossed. How do you deal with the amount of hate speech that is thrust on you, Anne?
well, this I just see it. I didn't, and this is what people have to understand, because I said this when I was interviewed by Sean. That would be saying, "Oh, how did you go through your life and all this?" People didn't know. I didn't come out and explain that I was intersex until I was 50. That's not long ago. That's nearly 8 years ago. So I kept it quiet because of the stigma, which my parents warned me. They said, look, people will treat you, they won't understand, they'll treat you as a circus freak and all that. So I kept my mouth shut. And you say, oh, I'm gay. And then when I was younger, you can't see it now, but when I was younger, you could see a hell of a lot more of the female in me. A hell of a lot. People used to get confused and think that I was actually female a lot of the time. So I sort of like said, oh, I'm gay and all this business. And I kept it quiet. But when I came out and said, the reason I did it was because, oh, look, I'm getting old now. I haven't got much longer for this planet. Do something good. And it's a horrendous, Donna, I can't explain. And it's so upsetting that people can't hear this. The way intersex babies are treated. Greece, thank God to Greece, and cheers to Greece, has actually brought in a law that intersex babies cannot be operated on. We cannot be operated on, and we've said from day one, you're just operating on a child. You're surgically abusing a child to fit in with society's norms.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now that child can grow up, that intersex child can grow up, and it's not until we hit puberty that you really know 100% sure what is the dominant sex, and that's where the problem sets in. But when people come on and they get confused, they don't know what intersex means. They don't. Unless you say hermaphrodite. I've always said we should never have lost the term hermaphrodite. People are more they have more of an idea what hermaphrodite is than what they do intersex. Intersex to me is a wishy-washy word, and they think, oh, well, you can't make up your mind what you are. 1 minute you want to be straight, then you want to be gay, then you want to be, that's what some people can think it is. But because I wear makeup, people think I want to be a woman, or they think I'm a woman. And people also think I'm transgender, which I'm not. So the majority of hate I get launched at me is actually launched at me them thinking that I'm transgender. So they get it completely wrong. That's why I have a lot of sympathy and be very, very protective towards trans people. Very protective, because I know what they go through, because I get it, even though I'm not transgender.
Yeah.
But you just have to, at my age, when you get all this hate and all that, it depends how people say it. So it's going to upset you. That's what they want to do. But there's a difference between someone, and I've always said this, someone saying something and they're unaware of the right terminology. They might use a term and you think, oh, they've just got confused. And someone going out and trying the best to upset you.
Yeah.
But when they do this, I'll tell you one thing that Chris Hartley said. He turned around and said that he wasn't anti-LGBTQI. He was anti-me. And I thought, well, wait a minute. If I was black, would he start throwing insults like the N-word at me and call me racial words? Would that be okay? And another one I pulled up on this was Heather Turner. Because Heather Turner, though, I still like Heather Turner, let's put it that way, even though we don't talk much, I do like her. I know John has problems with her, but I do like Heather, because I think the two of us went through it with Wheezy, so we have a common thing. But she said
I thought that Heather Turner was friends with Wheezy.
Oh, God, no.
Was she not Elaine Meatgrinder on the Wheezy ringing in? Because it was like a Skype call that they used to do, and she was singing as Elaine Meatgrinder. That was my understanding.
I haven't got a clue, but I know we went for her throat. He went for a bath style, and that's how we started talking, the two of us. But
in all fairness, and sorry to interrupt, in all fairness, I think Heather, maybe we've had a couple too many, and I've done it myself the other night there on video, Craig's live. But yeah, it is what it is.
Oh, it is what it is. But she said something, so I'm not just singling out Chris Hartley for saying this, because other people have said it. And she turned around, and what it was, I won't go into full details, but it was when Exposure TV had Uncle Bobby on. Not Uncle Bobby, Uncle K, and he was coming out with this tackle thing all the time. And Video Craig went on there, and I was fuming, because I was really a good, but I thought me and Dingo Craig were really good friends, and I thought, you've just kicked me right in the back doing that. So how could you do that to me, knowing that when you appeared there, it will kick it all off again between them, throwing it at me, which it did. Anyway, Heather is friends with Video Craig. Fine, great. She loves going on his panel. Brilliant. And I wish she hadn't said this, Donna. I wish she hadn't said it, because it just soured everything. She turned around and she said to me, it's not talking about Exposure, talking about Uncle K and all this and others. It's not that they dislike intersex people. They just don't like you. And I thought, oh, why did you just say that? Because she's got, I felt like saying to her, but it didn't. I felt like saying, you've got a black woman friend that you have on your show. What if they were calling her racial names? Would you turn around to her and say, oh, it's not that they're racist, they just don't like you?
Yeah.
And that's what really gets me. No, if you come out with terminology like that, you are a bigot. And I'll call out people out for it, because that's, as I say, what I'll do. But when it comes to the intersex thing, which seems to get lost in the arguments that are going on, seems to get lost, that message. Don't forget, when someone starts going on about intersex people, I'm thinking of those children. I'm thinking of those children now, and young people now, who are terrified, Donna, terrified to come out and say, I am intersex. Now, the term I've just used, come out, indicates that it's considered a taboo even today. And why should babies be terminated and killed and operated on and abused in that way, just because by some act of nature we've been born where we've got aspects of both sexes in us. It's not genders, it's sexes. And that's when I get passionate about it, because I think, you know, there's children and I'm still seeing this, and I know that this world is still a dangerous world to come out in as being intersex, which is horrific. And you go on, you see there's intersex people on YouTube who they talk about being intersex, and you see they absolutely hate the gay, and they haven't said anything wrong. They haven't said anything. They've just said, actually, because of my birth, I am physically or genetically have aspects of both sexes, and that's what really gets me when people do that, because we gotta think of the future. I'm not concerned about myself. I say I'm closer to the grave than I am to the cradle, but I know that there's babies here, there's children here, and really no one knows how many intersex people there are in the world, because some people
I was going to ask you that. I mean, have you any idea what the which is really sad, isn't it? I mean, when people used to lock children and adults alike away in institutions because of various disabilities. When I was pregnant with my youngest son, I was offered a very, very, very late termination, not because of a gender issue, but because the obstetrician, they sort of like took me from antenatal clinic and I went to fetal medicine, and they felt that he might be particularly disabled. As it happened, I didn't even consider that. I went down the route, well, let's see what happens. And heartbreakingly, I sort of discussed with them non-resuscitation. But it really struck me that it was such a, I mean, it was, I was nearly 30 weeks. And they offered me a termination. And as it happened, there was somebody else on the same day was offered a termination. I think I asked them, I said, when did you have the last software rollout? I just thought, this is just, I could not understand why. I mean, you can argue for and against it, I guess, but for a gender issue, for people to be I mean, shame is a social construct that controls teams of people, like villages or sort of social units. But to actually, that's really shocked me, and it's upset me actually. And my heart goes out to you to consider that somebody is offered a termination because of a query over gender.
Well, it's not gender this way, actually. It's got nothing to do with gender. This way people get confused as well. Intersex is, or hermaphrodite is sex. It's got nothing to do with gender. Is more or less the way the body is and the way you perceive yourself, but it's actually it's all down to the reproductive organs and the genes. So it's more of a sex thing, it's not gender. But the question, how many are there? How many intersex people are in the world? They have guesses. You'll get it as low as 4%, then you'll get it going up as high as 14%. But the truth is, you cannot say, because some people can go through all their lives and not know they're intersex until they're on a mortuary slab, and then the mortician finds out that they're intersex. I wouldn't have known. Well, my parents knew that I was intersex, but I didn't know until I was 13, and one of the ovaries decided, well, the ovary, I've only got one, the ovary decided to mature, which would have killed me. I wouldn't be here now, only for modern medicine. And that was how I found out, because they had to tell me. They said, use the word intersex then. They said, you're a true hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite they used then, sorry. They said, you're a true hermaphrodite. Do you know what that is? And they knew what a hermaphrodite is, but I said, wait a minute, so I haven't got a vagina. And so they said, no, they said, you've got actually the womb, and you've got one deformed ovary, and they said the ovaries matured, and that's what. But I would have been dead, and it was agonising, absolutely agonising. It would have been a horrific death. But some people can be walking around and they don't know. It's like fascinating. I think you might see on the internet about a woman, and you'll see her. She's a woman. She's got everything that a woman's got. Beautiful, stunning. Take her clothes off. It's a woman. She didn't find out until I think she was 16. She's actually a man genetically. She's male, fully male, but yeah, born looking like a female, because something in the brain that decides, because you know the saying that all life starts off as female, that's the blueprint for life, and it has to acquire the Y chromosome to become male. Well, what can happen is that the Y chromosome, in her case, came along, tried to attach, but the body didn't respond to it. So basically, the things that were supposed to click on to say, right, this is a Y chromosome, that clitoris has to be a penis, those testes have to be ovaries, that didn't switch on.
Right.
So she developed as a woman, but was genetically and physically looked, well, she was genetically male. So that you can get that, that's extreme types, but you get, I say, it's a lot, it's not just like people think, and this is the myth that I think why they stopped saying intersex. People think we're half one, half the other. No, we're not. There's always one dominant side.
Right.
In other words, you'll either end up being more male or more female. In my case, I was more male than female. And that's why, well, I had to take tablets as well after the ovary matured itself. I had to start taking testosterone at that point, or I would have died. They said it could cause you to get, well, I'm always under the threat of developing cancer. Thankfully, I haven't, touched wood. But
at that age, that must have been so emotionally difficult and painful.
No, I always, what it was, Donna, right, I was always considered different. Let's put it that way. Even by my peers, I was considered different. And at that time, all that I was worrying about was I was at that age when I had to get through my ballet exams and move up to the next level. So that was all that I was worrying about. Oh, God, if I don't do that, I'm going to get grief from my papa and all this business. That was to take me over. And so that more or less saved me. And I never really sat down and thought, because it's not, when I look at myself, I don't see anything strange, that way. But if I was left up to nature, I would be here. I would have died when I was 13. But if it was left up to nature, I'd be like this strange, sort of like ambiguous with breasts and all, because I started developing breasts. And it's also like you'd be wondering, is it male? And that's why I say when I was younger, people used to actually mistake me for a girl because they'd think, oh, it's a girl half the time. But it wasn't. So I never actually thought, I've never actually sat down. It's like anything. It's like me if I said to you, do you ever find it strange being a woman, or what's it like to be a woman? The only possible answer to that is I don't know what it's not like to be a woman. So that's it. And you don't wake up to you thinking, oh, I'm a woman. And that's it. So to me, it's just one of those things. I just get on with it. And I certainly don't expect sympathy from anyone for it, which used to drive me mad when people would start acting as if it was some kind of terrible aim. Isn't that terrible? And I say, look, I'm not a sympathy case, I can assure you. And I think that's why I can be so biting towards people as well, because when they do that, which is a lot of the time, or the 80s theatre, huggies, everyone coming up hugging, which I always hated. I'd bite at them. I'd go, like that. I'd do me little Max the werewolf. I'd growl at them, go, and bite at them, as if to say, don't. I'd rather have you hating me than you being patronising to me.
Yeah.
Well, that's my way of dealing with it. That's the way I see it.
After everything, I mean, the incidence of children being born hermaphrodite in India, I know that there's, you know, the way that people are ostracized and given very often very dirty jobs that the rest of society sort of like cleaning drains with their hands. And I watched something years ago about that, and that is you know, that's terrible. But when we look at sort of like the UK and consider if we've got those numbers in India, there must be an equivalent sort of pro rata ratio of people here. But for somebody to target you, I mean, it's one thing targeting.
I did the one point, but I said sorry. I targeted the last weekend in 20. I was going to eat.
Yeah, well, I was kind of, I mean, just like, I mean, if somebody's wearing glasses and somebody dislikes you, then people will pick anything at all. But to ostracize somebody because of something that they have absolutely no control over, it kind of brings shame on people that are watching that, and it makes people feel destabilized, and it's just it's horrific, and my heart goes out to you, Anne.
But when you told,
and I'm not being patronizing,
yeah.
I just bringing up children is very, very difficult. It's you know, the world's a tough place, and you do everything that you can to make their lives as good as you possibly can. And so for somebody like Chris Hartley, or the man that shall not be mentioned, some of the things that I've seen him say, absolutely disgusting. It's vile. It's vile, and it's you know, it's a crime against you, and it's also a crime against anybody that's got to bloody listen to it and experience it.
This is what I was saying, Donna, before, right? When people do that to me and start coming out with that hate speech towards me, they can't turn around and say that they're not bigots and they're only doing it because they don't like me. I'm sorry, if I was to say, and I'll say again, if I was black, would people think it would be all right because they didn't like me to come out with racial slurs? No, they wouldn't. And the worst one for it was the person we can't mention, who is True Media's mate and Chris Hartley's mate, and was Jockney's. I don't know whether he's still Jockney's mate, but you know, he was the worst one for it. But that's just the world. But to say about India, what you're talking about is the Hindu caste system where they have untouchables. Now that's got to do with how dark someone's skin is. But in India, funny enough, a lot of parts of India, I'd be considered a demigod. And that's the irony in it. And in the ancient world, I'd be considered a demigod, an oracle of the gods sent down so that man can speak through the gods, because we're considered the perfect. Because I don't know whether you saw it when it was on with Steve Rape. I had a laugh with him, and I said about the Freemasons. And I'm sure they have the saying, solve et coagula, dissolve and combine. The perfect human being is both male and female combined into one. And I was saying to him, you should worship me as a god, as a demigod. You should, because I can come and bless. Oh yeah, we're considered. And I've had actually people asking me that, to touch their head, to bless them, because they actually believe. No, when I worked in the theatre, so very few people that are told, because I wouldn't tell everyone, but a couple of people are told. And they'd say, come on, bless, because they were from Indian background, and they'd want me to touch their head and bless them. Or if they had a baby, I'd have to blow on the baby, blow my breath over the baby, and they think that that's some kind of blessing I'd give. Whether it worked or not, I don't know. But I did it just to please them. But as for all this hate and all this that's going on YouTube, and this drama that's looking, it's just gone totally mad in the last couple of months. It's just gone to extreme sides.
I think it sort of stepped up the madness when everybody, I think during COVID, everybody was sort of relatively isolated. And I think that's changed people immensely with the way that they behave online. But the traction that sort of, I don't like the word trolling, but controversial points of view, the traction that channels get by being controversial is actually at times sickening.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is what happens, and also there's the cashing in thing as well, where someone will be used because they'll know they'll get views, and that's what drives me. That's what makes me speak out when I think, wait a minute, there's something here where that person's just trying to jump on the bandwagon, and I get distrustful of them. And I won't name names because we'll just start making it a nasty situation. But there are people out there that you just know that it's going to be decaggy. And I'm not talking about Karma Corner, because I know Karma Corner, he's made it his mission that he's going to do this. That's different. What I'm talking about is when people are just, you know, that they're doing it, and wherever the wind is blowing, they'll go in that direction, so they'll be successful and they'll get more followers. And that's what I think is yucky. I don't like it at all, because it's disingenuous. They'll jump from one person to another with how the wind's blowing.
And that's become really evident with sort of the people who are like London taxis. They will literally turn on a sixpence, and their loyalty is dependent on opportunity. I think that's quite that's a sorry state to be in. And it, like Chris Hartley, for example, the things that he's done, I don't think I'd like to put my head on the pillow at night thinking about, you know, sort of the damage that, I mean, people, that's probably sounds controversial or hypocritical in a sense, and I'll have to take that on the chin, but I have never targeted somebody because of something about them personally. However, if somebody's behavior is evidenced with somebody else's trauma, I think that it's right that the person that's got the trauma doesn't carry shame, and the person that's displayed that behavior does carry the shame. And people saying things like John and I are going to go to jail. The police know who we both are. We've been asked questions. Whatever somebody's vulnerability is, I think weaponizing vulnerability, it needs to be called out, whether your vulnerability is your sexuality, the color of your skin, the fact that you've got no family, that you've got substance misuse issues, mental health issues, whatever that is, that needs to be called out. And some of the things that, I mean, you probably get this too, some of the things that people send to us or comments, or they say, look into this, and it's just, it's harrowing. And I think that you're doing such a grand job with the talking about it, because when we talk about it, it lifts the cloak of shame. And not everybody feels as though they've got a voice, and like they're being weighed down with shame about themselves, their weight, their bodies, whatever that, you know, family, whatever that might be. But weaponizing that is just so wrong, and that's what keeps me going.
There's some things that I say the local areas now, when you're talking about something like, you know, mental health issues or drug issues or addiction issues to whatever, as I always say, it depends where the person, I tend to take the legal viewpoint of it. If a person's got mental health issues, do they know what they're doing is right or wrong? And do they have control of what they're doing? Now, you get people, and I'm just absolutely sick of this, and I think a lot of people are, and every channel's popping up discussing mental health issues, and they can be the most obnoxious, horrible people going, coming out with the most horrible things. But then it's, oh, I'm going to talk about mental health issues and all this. And it's like, don't use your mental health as a cover, because as I say, we're all responsible for our own mental health. So, you know, deal with that. Don't use it as a cover to spew out hate. And again, I could name one person, but I won't, because it's going to cause a hit back if I do. And he's going round, you know, he said some horrible things, not just against me, but he's accused me of mocking him because he was mentally ill. I didn't even know he was mentally ill. And I'm sorry to say, I couldn't care less, because what he used to do in the past, he didn't give a damn about the destruction he was doing to people's families when he was, you know, doing this illegal deal. And so I couldn't care less, but I didn't know he had depression or whatever he had. But that's where I draw the line and say, no, don't start this, you know, on me, that you got mental health issues. And I also got that from the police as well, where people would come in, I'm mentally ill, I've got you can't. And I'd say, look, mate, you can't be held responsible, because guess what? You just turn around and said that. So, you know, you use it as an excuse. And if you're wise enough to use an excuse, the courts won't look into it. But yeah, that's it. But I don't mind. I mean, if people want to call me ugly or whatever, that's up to them. That doesn't bother me. It really, really doesn't bother me, that kind of insult. I just think it's, you know, because I mean, let's face it, let's be honest, I can sort of like be pointed towards people's looks, but I know I'm an ugly looking bugger as well. So I think here we are. I know I am.
And your eyeshadow is something to be revered, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That actually, about your eyeshadow and your makeup, that was actually the first comment that I made to you a couple of years ago, I don't know, it was ages ago. But if we all fancied the socks off of one another, if we, you know, there's somebody for everyone. I like to believe that. And we all look like we've been dragged through a hedge backwards at times, and we all have fine days, but it's not about, you can be absolutely supermodel, stylish, beautiful, but have a dark heart, and that makes you particularly ugly. And similarly, you can somebody could be not characteristically beautiful, but just have the most wonderful, kind, caring, compassionate personality, and that makes them beautiful. So I mean, it's values, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, I don't mind. When I was younger, I did, because I came from a very good-looking family. My papa was good-looking, an Italian-looking stallion. My mama was a beautiful Irish woman, beautiful strawberry blonde hair, bright blue eyes that you could see across a room. So I came from that. So it was difficult growing up, but I remember. And I always remember this when I was in ballet school, and someone was saying something, because I used to have, I've had my nose done, but I used to have a right big hook of a nose. It was huge. And it always was the thing people would pick on. And I remember one of my teachers, who was very lucky to have, say, Robert Heldman, him, and he heard someone saying something about me, saying, oh, you know, about my looks. And I remember turning around, he said, got the person, and he said, do you see, when you're saying that, he said, you know who his ancestor was, my ancestor. And he said, she was considered ugly, which was fame when she stepped off stage. It was a famous thing she performed in Russia. And she came off stage, and this Russian student said something to her, and she thought she was getting a compliment and thanked him for it. And said, oh, thank you. But what he was saying was, oh my God, how's that ugly thing just done that beautiful performance on stage? And he said, she became the great. He said, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now, only for his ancestry was considered ugly, because he said she changed the system and created what we have today. And that always stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
And I remember I thought, I don't care what I look like. And I really didn't care 100% what I looked like from that point on. So it doesn't get to me. I mean, I find what some people say funny anyway when they go on about it. But we all do. I mean, we all, and I've always said this, right? We can all be nasty little imps when we, at some point. No one's totally perfect. That's it. So we will have go. But again, I say, Donna, when you get the situation like this, Chris Harley, when it comes to stalking, there's something wrong. It's like, that's not normal behaviour.
No, it's not.
Why would you? If I don't like someone, and this is another thing, Donna, if I don't like someone, I keep away from them. If I really don't like them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If I feel like somebody, I mean, the issues around Decker, for example, I really dislike that man. I've never met the man. I dislike him. But I have a couple of people that I'm in contact with that tell me how they're impacted by the videos that he makes. And they've become my friends. And when people tell you things that they've experienced and they've evidenced it, it's very, very hard to walk away. Like with you now, if you've realized that other people have been impacted by one man's behavior, of course. I mean, sometimes my mum would say, least said, soonest mended. But then it allows a problem to propagate. And if you can make I really don't understand stalking and harassment. I mean, we've been accused of some ridiculous things that are actually really terrible that we haven't done. And I resent that in a way, because that means whilst we're being blamed, somebody is, if those things have happened, so by blaming us when we haven't done those things, like ringing people's children's schools, that sort of thing, that means there is somebody in the mix somewhere that is doing that. So blaming the wrong person just because you've allowed somebody to plant a seed and then watered it. But the stalking and harassment, that's totally different to your experience, where some of the things excuse me, some of the things that have been said about you, and I have sort of, there's a couple of things that have been said, and I will stand up and be counted. Nobody should be called those things, and they might be my friends, but I will say, no, I'm not going along with that. Yeah.
Do you know, just this thing, because might as well address, things that are given toothache in the room, because we know it was a couple of years ago, the most stupid thing. Me and I think it was John Humble Dryer used to when I was near the channel, used to actually be filming and all that, and then we fell out because of the most stupid thing, and that was, I'd said that one of Humble Dryer's main followers, I'll just go, eek, give me some cheese, right? I got told by someone else, and it was wrong information, that this person was dangerous, in other words, around children, and giving a name and all this. Do you know what, right? That blew up into an absolutely storm on the internet. But honest to God, if this eek person knew who told the person that told me, they'd be shocked. The person that told, and this is what I mean, Tony, you can never bleeding trust anyone on the internet. You can't trust anyone on the internet. No. If that eek knew who actually told the person that told me, they'd be absolutely dumbfounded. I think they'd refuse to believe it, and that's what started it. But it just went dead quiet, didn't it? And then I did a video, and it was about this cash thing, the Darren G thing. Yeah. And that's also like spared it off again. And then it calmed down, then spared up, and I think that's just the way it is. I think, because I have a lot of time for John. I do have a lot of time for him because I can see that he gets extremely passionate about what he's doing. And I can see a lot of...
That's because I sent you about 20 pictures last Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Pictures of this.
He is really annoying, though, isn't he, at times? Let's face it.
But that's what's so strong. But also, this is the thing, and this is what's what I struggle with as well. There's this way that, let's say, Dodgy Dave right now. I don't know. All that I know is what Dodgy Dave's were to see him on the internet and what I've heard he's done in the past. I can't see how he can be described as being, you know, a good fella. Yet someone else, and this does happen, John, and I've noticed this, that someone else who doesn't support the Dekahegi, get Dekahegi off the internet and get him prosecuted or whatever. If they did half of that, they'd be condemned outright by you. And that's the thing I struggle with. Shouldn't it be across the board? Dodgy Dave, the law, them should be held to account for what they've done or what they're doing. Because I don't believe he's genuine.
And it's a bit like, I can try and see good in Dodgy Dave, but I struggle to see it in Bobby Kay, because I know he could still be up to stuff where it's the same. Maybe we just see people in different lights.
And you have to go with what's presented to you at the time. I mean, see, this is a controversial subject. But that's weird. But you have to base your that's why, like, I've been quite careful. Like, when we were talking about Chris Hartley at the beginning of this conversation, I said my belief is that it's like, I don't know for a fact, but given what's been presented to me, I could change my mind tomorrow and be 100% certain, or I could tomorrow be presented with something and I'm like, no, it's definitely wasn't Chris Hartley. I think people plant seeds in people and then they water them and they nurture them and they feed them. Just now, I'm not a particularly trusting person for a variety of reasons. But whereas John is probably, well, up until recently, was probably more trusting than me, based on and I've never met Dave. I've never met his wife. I've spoken to him very briefly on the phone. So I think you're right in saying that if we, like, seeds have been planted with us to say that have perhaps to other people's minds have minimized what he's done. He sent us his acro. And I don't really want to get into the whole acro wars thing, because I think that's weaponizing people's human rights, which I actually think is really wrong. My right to privacy is my right to privacy, and that shouldn't be weaponized. Hey ho. But in the environment around Decca, I think a certain, because of the and it's savage. Dave had Decca around his daughters, and Dave was very, very angry. In a normal situation, I probably wouldn't even consider speaking to Dave. Okay, and I'm sorry, Dave, but that's it's me talking, not John. I'm not speaking for both of us. I'm speaking for me. I don't know all of the details about his previous offences. However, he has his involvement. I think it needs a certain type of person to go further than the average person, and maybe somebody with Dave's background was needed. I don't know, but he, if it's true, I mean, we've been told that it was a government scheme that was defrauded. I don't know the details of it. I really don't. What I do know is he was working to support something that we were trying to achieve, and that is, and this is it, it's not, we don't want anybody necessarily knocking on people's doors, etc., because that's crossing a line, but awareness of a situation where somebody is purporting to be a mental health ambassador, giving advice, and literally it was our understanding based on what we could see that vulnerable people, men and women, were being harvested by somebody that is actually quite predatory. So inspecting Dave's background hasn't
the thing gets done like this. I mean, I'll give, because people going on this, especially motorsports, which the other week was going on that I went on. I'll give actually my view on Deckeggy in a minute. Just Miss Magpie, no, it's not going to be an open live today because I didn't want to get into all kinds of, someone coming on, then there's a big argument exploding. But if Donna or John wants to come on another time, we can have an open live, but as long as it's not screaming and shouting, because I won't put up with all that nonsense. But anyway, just to get on to Decker, my view on Decker is that back in the day when Sean Atwood tried to get me to go on to onto Decker's show, because this is before all this all kicked off at Bat Style. Sean said, "Oh, come on, we want you to go on there." And I was wondering, well, why am I going on there? It was because this anti-cyberbullying thing got started up. And I thought, oh, they want me to go on there talking about bullying. Well, I didn't know who the hell Deckeggy was. I'd never met him before. But thank God, that fella, what's his name, went on. The fella that was always on the dark web. I've forgotten his name.
Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson was on there. And I said, forget it. I said, I'm not going anywhere near that. So I said, no way. I said, you're going to use me as a cover to say that he's being bullied, sad. But I said, forget it. So anyway, thank God that happened, because poor Ronan went and filled the gap eventually that I'd refused, and Ronan got absolutely in the neck for doing that. But I would do it. Then I just sat back and started hearing this about Decker. And at first I was thinking, no, I don't know what's going on here. I couldn't make my mind up. But as it progressed and went on, as it's got today, the way I see it is, what makes me think I wouldn't be comfortable around him, or to think there's something there, is because he's never had John arrested. He's never had motorsports arrested. He's never had other people arrested. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, he got Danny Christie arrested and actually put inside for less than what's happening now. And the only conclusion I can come to when he's doing all this, I want to be positive, which is a lot of nonsense. I want to look on the positive side. The only thing I can think, this is my supposition, let's make this clear, it's my supposition. If it gets to court, he's scared that it will be confirmed what people have been accused him of in the courtroom. And that's where I stand on it. In other words, I know he hasn't gone to court, I know he hasn't been sentenced and but it's more curious and more disturbing that he hasn't had people arrested. Exactly. And that's what gets me. And so that's to clear up for people, that's my view on it, what's been going on.
I mean, there's been some, I'm concerned about my battery. I'm not anywhere near a cash point, a plug. So if I do go, if my battery, I've got about 13%. I don't want to move because the Wi-Fi here is horrendous. But there's been some talk about us ruining cases. A case in point is the live with Alec Kearney and Dot. We've known about Dot's story for since 2019. There's things that we've got that we haven't ever put out. We have never, ever paid anybody for any information, nothing at all. And if we had, I mean, Decker's had people go to solicitors, instruct their own family solicitors, and he's got nowhere at all. I have said to the police that if they, and I put my hands up to this, I explained it at the time to people that are close to us. There was a lot of allegations going around and things were coming out. I felt that I haven't got a criminal record. I am a law-abiding citizen, and I chose to go to the police, and I told them. They already knew. They'd been to the house. They knew who we were. They knew about all of this. It had already. They were aware. And I said to them, look, I've got information that if ever anybody's investigating, if you or another police area are investigating anything, we do have things from people. So we've never, it's not that we've not gone to the police, but I've made the police aware that I would be prepared to give them information that we've got. Nobody's in our family is going to judge me for doing that, and I believe that was the right thing to do, because we have got, you know, text messages that he sent, videos that he sent to women, threats that he's issued to people, yeah, and evident, and we've never asked for that, but we got it. This is an unintended situation. This was never where we anticipated this would go, and we couldn't have anticipated that the length and breadth of it would be such that it is now. We've got it's all neatly filed and in chronological order. And I did actually say to Decker a couple of years ago, look, please try and get me charged, because actually that would be fantastic. Because I think John said to him, we'll bring a filing cabinet of evidence to you. But Decker has become the poster boy of intimate relationship abuse and domestic violence. Right now, this isn't just about Decker. This is about lifting shame. That's what it's for me anyway. And support. We've supported people that have been impacted by him and other people like him. Something like, and you can't walk away from that. And I'm glad thank you for saying what you've said, because there is no, we have not stalked and harassed Decker. We may have harassed him somewhat.
I'd say, Donna, to be in fairness, if he has been stalked and harassed, I mean, there's no doubt about it, even though he could be guilty, as I'm saying, and it's very suspicious, it still is. That's what makes it more curious or more questionable, that he hasn't taken action, because he could have had people lifted with I know what the police requirement is for harassment and malicious communications. He could have people saving time now, and it just seems very, very strange that
no doubt he has been stalked and harassed. But one of the issues is we have evidence that he has harassed himself in Danny Christie's name. That would have to come into court. There's things like that, and I'm not going to go into it too much. It's a very precarious situation, but I have not stalked or harassed Derek Heggie. He has offered people money to stalk and harass me, and we've got evidence of that as well.
£10,000 actually was a price.
It's a horrible situation, and it's
how much? How many
£10,000.
Oh, Decker, get in touch with me, mate. I need
Can we
some
go
money.
50-50?
Yeah, I'll say, start harassing yourself. That's it. That'll be a good thing. I got a plan.
You know?
But just got this from John. Here we are, John. You've just put up a post before. I couldn't finish it. I said to Dave, so within is right. What have I told you about how you spell right?
Oh, he drives me nuts. I actually bought
Yeah.
him a mug that's got common misspelling. Actually, I've got it right here. So it's like, you know, the your and your. So I'm trying to train him. I'll win this fight.
That one, I don't know. I put it down to me autism, me little trick so I can have your and your. When people mix those up, Y-O-U-R and Y-O-U, comma, R-D, that for some reason it always jumps out at me like a big monster, and I always see it straight away. That does, and other little things jump. Oh, use, Y-O-U-S. But actually, use makes sense, and I've always see this is the autism talking now. Use makes sense actually, because if you look at other languages, like especially Spanish, they have a plural for you. In English, we don't. If you go speaking Spanish, you'll always know. You never have anyone saying, when you say, I'm talking to you, they don't say who you're talking to. Because they'll know whether you're talking to one person or the whole room. Because they have a plural. There we are. So you've got an example of my little.
Can I admit something to you, Anne?
Yeah.
Once upon a time, and it was a long time ago, and I did get caught, but I just had a slight warning from the council and the police. There was a lot of graffiti near where I lived, and I corrected it with red spray paint because the spellings were, and it was just annoying me so much. So I was the woman that in Cardiff that corrected badly spelt graffiti.
I know, it's just one of those little things that get you, isn't it? And people start kicking off me when I correct them. But I only ever correct people who are being rude. If someone's being rude to me, then I'll jump in there. So I rearrange. It drives them mad because they're trying to insult me. And as a response, instead of picking them up on the insult they've given, I'll get the whole sentence and rearrange it, put in correct English, and they go, I'm a bigot because I'm against people with dyslexia. It's like, oh, sorry, you haven't got dyslexia. Because guess what used to be my job at one time with Liverpool Central Library? I used to test people for dyslexia, so I know by just seeing how people are putting a sentence over if they've got dyslexia or not. But yeah, used to be funny. But anyway, let's start winding up now.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
But are we going to do a second one sometime and let people on? But there won't be any screaming or
sorry
shouting.
to interrupt before Donna's battery. I think we should do another one because there's a lot of things surrounding Danny getting jail the first time that people are yet to learn how he managed to secure that conviction against them. And I think we should do that just to get it clear how that conviction was sealed on Danny.
Yeah, well, we will do.
Very
So
interesting for people to learn.
So people in the chat who thought that this is going to be open, and I can understand your frustration that it's not open, but sometimes you have to have one-on-one, because don't forget, me, Donna and John have had our issues going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. But I've always really liked, I've liked the two of you. At the same time, at other times I've thought, I can't stand you. You know, that way. But that's what happens when you get strong people that clash with each other. You'll like someone and hate them the next minute. But what
you have to remember, our man in Wales tried to recruit us because he had disliking for you, and that kind of that's where he wanted us.
Oh yeah, I know. He said,
and there's these seeds that get planted and they get encouraged to germinate and spread, and it's like bindweed. I mean, we say to people, if you hear something about us, please just ask us.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be the golden rule.
Of my black relatives up the fridge.
John.
But what I'm going to say to people as well in the chat, right? I've got two people who were supposed to be coming on today who couldn't make it, and I've just found out that the link wasn't working in Instagram. So what I'll turn around and say to those people that you know who you are who wants to come on, which would be talking about the whole Jockney Sparrow, the whole Peggy situation, which is disgusting, absolutely disgusting what's going on there. I can tell you now, I'll be inviting them on to just me and them, and if people want to join in, you can. As I say, it'll be calm. Try to get it through it in a calm way, just to talk about that situation, because I just discovered But I'm winding up now because I've got to get things done. And if I don't get them done, I'm going to be absolutely chasing my own tail tomorrow. But I'm going to now get back to me, you little cat who's adopted me. And
Aww.
oh, little sod. It's all cooing down there. I'll go down and be all paired and wanting to cuddle up to me. Then you can guarantee when I open the back door and it wants to go out, it'll be hissing at me if I go anywhere near it. It's oh yeah, it's not stupid. But I think it's going feral. But I've got it just in time. Oh, it's got me just in time. I didn't invite her in. It came in itself and decided it was going
She's
to plop itself
adopted
down.
you.
Oh yeah. He or she. I think it's a he. It sounds like a tomcat the way it meows. But anyway, so I'll leave it there now. Thanks for that, Donna, and thanks, John.
Thank
and we'll
you so
rearrange
much.
part 2.
Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. Just give us support there.
Have a lovely evening.
I will do. Take care now.
Take care,
Bye-bye,
lovely.
everyone.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.